Hi everyone, the Holocaust Testimony House teaches about the Holocaust through art. Yad L'Zehava searches for Jewish cemeteries in Europe. The renewed Sanhedrin embraces the B'nai Noach, the music of David Morgan, and a look at 3 conferences that took place in Jerusalem today on Israeli Salad. Shalom and welcome to Israeli Salad. On Monday, January 10th, we mark the fast of the 10th of Tevet. Among a number of historical tragedies this fast commemorates is the tragedy of the Holocaust. The 10th of Tevet is the day of Kaddish, of mourning, in memory of victims whose date of death is unknown. We'll begin this program by visiting 2 institutions that are involved in educating about the Holocaust. First, let's visit the Testimony House at the Moshav of Nir Galim. The Testimony House in Nir Galim marked the 10th of Tevet by lighting 6 candles in memory of the more than 6 million victims of the Holocaust. The Testimony House is dedicated to widespread educational activity regarding the story of the Nazis' persecution of the Jews.
This institution relates to 2 aspects: the activities from those days of religious Zionism and the story of the Holocaust from a religious and spiritual point of view. On this day, we hold a variety of activities: storytelling, music, art, and of course, a main ceremony to commemorate this day.
The Testimony House presents many art exhibits that relate to the Holocaust, to the life that existed before, and the calamity that came with the Nazi regime, like this model of a flourishing Jewish community, which is depicted in flames.
These artworks try to express the ideas in different forms of art. For example, here we see Luca Vox's work. Luca presents the little Jewish town, the shtetl. She does it from her memory. We also have Devorah Zimmer's exhibit. She's a Holocaust survivor. She tells of her burning town when she hid in the barn. She sees the non-Jews, her neighbors, with their hands folded, doing nothing to put out the fire. In this tree, the sculptor turned it upside down. The roots are facing upwards, and the treetop and branches are deep under the earth. This is the nation of Israel in the time of destruction. Nevertheless, near the tree, we can see in the middle of the basalt stones, a small sapling is beginning to grow and deepen its roots here, in the land of Israel.
Nir Galim was founded by Hungarian Holocaust survivors. Here at the Testimony House, they are all a living part of the site. David Leitner tells his story here to the children and adults who come to learn about the Holocaust.
I was around 14 years old, and I remember that on Simchat Torah, Mengele, the Nazi, wanted children. So 51 children were taken. Here's the number that I got in Birkenau. It's amazing to see the modern-day children of Israel after I saw the Jewish children of Europe being murdered day after day.
Now let's meet Meir Shiloh, who decided to honor the memory of his mother by founding a unique Holocaust institution, Yad L'Zehava.
The Yad L'Zehava Institute was founded 8 years ago in memory of my mother, Zahava Schwartz. Zahava is also an abbreviation for In Memory of Those Killed in the Holocaust. In her last 10 years, my mother was involved in teaching the youth about the Holocaust. This is our main project that we've been working on for the past 2 years. It's called Adopt a Community. It's about searching, documenting, and preserving cemeteries and other Jewish sites in Poland and in all Eastern Europe. The mission is to uncover the gravestones and learn about the names of the Jews who lived in these communities. All the information we learn is uploaded to an internet site where it's available for Jews all over the world. We discovered grave sites that were covered with earth. For example, we found a grave site of 30 children from 1871, and relatives who still live today can now learn about their connection to these children.
Another project that Yad L'Zahava organizes in conjunction with the IDF is the Witnesses in Uniform program.
Around 10 to 15 Witnesses in Uniform delegations are sent to Poland each year, and they take part in our activities.
In one of the delegations, a young student asked to search for information about her grandfather, Israel Zessler, who fought in the British Army against the Germans.
Turns out that Jews from armies that fought against the Germans were buried in the military cemeteries throughout Poland. I succeeded in reaching the British area of graves, and once there, I discovered 13 graves of Jewish soldiers that were part of the British Army and fell in the Poland battlefront. Many of the family members of these soldiers never even knew that their relatives were buried there. The glorious and magnificent heritage of the Jews of Europe was erased and annihilated. If we don't document it today, I don't know what will happen in another 20 to 30 years when the next generations come and ask, what did we have? What do we have left?
The Developing Sanhedrin, a project undertaken by leading rabbis from diverse religious groups to reestablish Judaism's highest legal authority, convened Monday, January 9th, to ordain a Noachide council. The Noachide, or B'nai Noach Council, the first of its kind in history, aims to unite various groups of non-Jews in order to advance and expand the movement, which seeks to bring about observance by all of humanity of the 7 laws given to Noach after the Great Flood. David Miller reports.
Well, we're here today at a special convening of the Sanhedrin. Today, they're having a group of visitors from all over the world who are non-Jewish, focusing on the principles of B'nai Noach, or the sons of Noah. The man who inspired the Indiana Jones movies explains the conception.
The first covenant that God made with man was with Noah and his sons, and he gave 7 laws against blasphemy, idolatry, theft, murder, illicit sex, to establish courts of justice, and not to eat the limb of a living animal, and which covers all forms of humanitarianism.
The original Sanhedrin was essentially a Jewish Supreme Court, deciding all matters relating to Torah and Jewish law. Since the diaspora, there has not been a Sanhedrin until just recently, when the body was reconstituted by leading Jewish scholars. At a time when radical Islam is causing havoc worldwide, the Sanhedrin shows us not all Muslims are bent on destruction.
I think that it is very important for the Jewish people to have a Sanhedrin now, and for religious leaders of the world to develop a relation with the Sanhedrin. So when I received the invitation, I was glad to be here, because I think that is important for all religious leaders in general and for Muslim leaders in particular.
I want to show you this book that was translated to Arabic. It's the 7 mitzvot of B'nai Noach. This is one of the ways to bring peace between us and the Arabs. The person who buys it for me and distributes it around the Arab communities told me that 2 terror attacks were prevented thanks to this. Why? There were a few young Arabs who wanted to become martyrs. They read the book, and then they understood that you could reach God without committing a suicide attack. A decision was made to begin working on this issue of the 7 mitzvot of B'nai Noach in order to spread it to the whole world. We're starting our small part of repairing the world.
And I believe that if anybody were to survey the events of even the past year, we would see that we're living in a time like no other. We're living in an interesting time, a time that we're seeing events unfold that are unique in history. And with that, people are coming out of the nations and saying, you know, they're interested in the God of Israel.
The Talmud says that because the nations did not accept the Torah and not even the 7 mitzvot of Bnei Noach, God considers anyone who fulfills precepts as a volunteer, someone who acts although he is not obligated. But from the moment a non-Jew declares in front of a Jewish court that he will fulfill the precepts, then he becomes as one who acts due to an obligation.
Bnei Noach is an effort to get people back in a right relationship with God, Torah, and the people of Israel.
Please send your comments, ideas, and questions to the Israeli Salad email, yoni@israelnn.com, or leave a message on the Israeli Salad voicemail at international dialing code 972-3918-5554. That's 972-3918-5554.
And now for some music, let's meet musician David Morgan, who paid a visit to Israel.
What do you want me to be? Some guy who wants to live an ordinary life. What do you want me to see? A world that's only built on self-inflicted strife.
I've been playing music since I was a little kid and always took lessons and learned music and learned stuff by ear and just never stopped.
Versatile musician-producer David Morgan came to Israel on tour with singer Neshama Karlibach, daughter of Reb Shlomo Karlibach. In addition to working with artists like Neshama, David has produced a number of solo albums, and he's on stage frequently.
It's quite a blessing to be able to do what you love to do in the world and feel like you're really being creative and possibly making a difference in people's lives now and again.
Try to wear me down, trick me with your drugs and your lies.
Working with Neshama Karlibach brought David close to Reb Shlomo Karlibach's teachings and melodies.
I definitely feel like my father is so connected with David even though they never met.
Shlomo Karlibach's melodies are some of the best melodies that I've ever heard. He writes such beautiful, simple melodies, but they're kind of deceptively simple because it's very difficult to write a melody that's that's simple and that really it's like distilled from a much more complex place.
David is a graduate of the University of New Orleans Jazz Studies Department, and so he learned jazz right in the heart of Dixie, considered one of the centers of jazz.
So it was playing all day long at school, and then every night we'd be out playing in the clubs. I mean, actually putting into practice what we were learning in school. No matter what style I'm playing, a little bit of New Orleans is always kind of in there.
Them say at the start of the day that it's just a moment in time that can change your mind.
For David, being involved in the field of music means being involved in a very spiritual side of life.
It's just not about, it's not really about you. You do what you do as a performer. You go up on stage with a certain skill that you have, or a certain, you've gotten to a certain point. When you walk on stage, you're not going to really be any better than you are at that moment. But the audience can make you better. It can make you transcend something that you haven't done before.
And now our good news update. Mark Kaplan is standing by in the news studio. Shalom, Mark. So you attended 3 conferences that took place in Jerusalem. What can you tell us about them?
Shalom, Yoni. The city of Jerusalem is, thank God, flourishing. Several conferences and conventions have been taking place in Jerusalem lately. Many organizations see Jerusalem as the suitable location to discuss issues that are vital to the state of Israel. I attended 3 such events. We'll begin with the Orthodox General Assembly. The OGA, which is organized by the World Zionist Organization, is held in conjunction with major Orthodox organizations around the world. The Assembly, now in its 6th year, operates on the basis of the common vision that cooperation is possible and desirable in order to strengthen Jewish commitment to Judaism and the State of Israel.
Close to 200 rabbis and lay leaders and presidents of communities are participating in our assembly, and they are from 38 countries from the diaspora.
It's not only fascinating, it's also very instructive to see and to gain insight into how my colleagues deal with similar situations in a different way. And it gives me completely new ideas and ways to face the challenges that we have in our community.
And there's a real focus on trying to find practical ways that those of us who are here can go back to our communities and impact on the way the press and the public view Israel and the Jewish people.
Yesterday, we went out to visit the evacuee people from Gush Katif, and this was very impressive and very sensitive and emotional visit.
Perhaps the most emotional part was the meeting of the families themselves. The tragedy of it, I think, isn't as well known as it should be in England and in Chutz La'aretz, and I think that's one of the things that I'm going to attend to when I get back. Try and raise the awareness of what happened and what is happening, more importantly, what is happening to the families now.
Now here's a conference that was organized by the International Council of Jewish Parliamentarians, or the ICJP. The ICJP's goal is to bring together Jewish legislators and parliamentarians from around the world. The ICJP held a 3-day forum in Jerusalem as part of the mission to ensure that the Jewish voice is heard globally on matters ranging from human rights, global poverty, to the future of the State of Israel. The topics focus on electronic anti-Semitism and legislative solutions, interfaith dialogue and the role of parliamentarians, and support for the developing world, particularly Africa.
We certainly have common interests as Jews. We care very much about the vitality and the security of the State of Israel. We have connections because of our Jewish faith, and this is a good way to exchange ideas and to work together. I'm an American congressman who happens to be Jewish. I'm proud of being an American. I'm proud of being Jewish.
It's the first time in Israel.
What are your impressions being here for the first time?
It's too big to be explained in a few words. And it's good because then I go back to my country and I explain to my Arab compatriots what's going on.
And around 600 people participated in the 15th World Conference of the Law of Torah. This conference was organized by the Halichot Am Yisrael organization, and it brought together rabbis, businessmen, and economic experts who discussed the relationship between the world of economics and Jewish halacha.
If a person receives money that he may be entitled to according to the secular legal system, but is not entitled to according to Torah law, then the person is simply stealing money. For example, one might invest money in a company that is involved in desecrating the Shabbat or is involved with non-kosher food. You and I would not want our money supporting these kind of companies, so here we talked about establishing a kosher supervision that would relate to the field of economics. In a bank, you must make sure that the bank has a halachic certification. If there is none, then there is a great risk of being involved in transgressing the prohibition of interest, ribit, one of the most serious prohibitions in the Torah.
Okay, Yoni, that's all for our Good News Update. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mark, and thank you all for joining us for another edition of Israeli Salad. Join us again next week. Until then, shalom.
Jerusalem.